We are the anchors of Queer News Tonight, and this evening we discuss the queer headlines. HOTspots magazine's 40th anniversary issue features summer swimwear, gay Disney events, Hollywood horror insights, fashion tips, dining guides, and more.
HRC launches $15 million We Show Up drive to mobilize 75 million equality voters for November elections, combating anti-trans attacks and securing Democratic wins.
4 LGBTQ plus bars in San Diego were attacked in a drive-by pellet gun shooting, injuring 3. What's going on?
Italy is among 9 EU states which did not sign an LGBTQ plus rights bill, citing overlap with an existing domestic proposal.
Pope Francis criticizes U.S. conservatives for opposing blessings for same-sex couples, urging empathy and openness within the Catholic Church.
Good evening. Welcome to Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only LGBTQ plus daily evening television news, broadcasting live and available on demand. Available on all smart televisions, including Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, Amazon Fire TV, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. It's time to queer up the news. Tuesday, May 21st, 2024. We are live and literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we are going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
This is the world's first live daily LGBTQ evening news show, literally out of the closet and into the headlines on Queer News Tonight.
This is the world's first and only unedited live LGBTQ plus evening news show. Whatever happens unique in LGBTQ plus news, you're going to hear it and see it.
HOTspots magazine, Happening Out Television Network, is a nonprofit 501c3 media company in the same model of PBS and NPR, but designed for the LGBTQ plus community. Our mission is to support the 11 pillars of our LGBTQ plus community. We want to inform and educate the key issues of our queer culture, the Black community, Latino, lesbians, and queer women, trans, students and youth, seniors, HIV and AIDS healthcare, business, social justice, and faith. Help us support our community.
We are part of one of the largest LGBTQ plus nonprofit media companies in America, HOTspots magazine and Happening Out Television Network.
In 2024, our magazine is celebrating 40 years of the LGBTQ plus experience, and our television news, talk, and entertainment shows support our mission to educate the LGBTQ plus and broader community.
Let's meet tonight's anchors at Queer News Tonight. Let's welcome Jino Arielly. Jino is the bass player for the indie rock band At the Starlight. Jino has been playing bass for over 30 years and is producing the band's debut album. Jino, it's so great to have you at the table. At the Starlight presents Indie Pride 2024, a safe space to celebrate the LGBTQ plus community with 5 bands, vendors, artists, and more. This event is on June 22nd. Tell me what's happening.
So my band At the Starlight wanted to do something for the community, and we gathered 5 bands and lots of vendors. And this is going to be the first ever, Pride event in Dania Beach. And it's going to be a lot of great music and, a lot of fun.
Well,
so
I will be there with bells on. Congratulations on being a pioneer in the first Pride for Dania Beach. That's incredible. We're happy to have you.
Thank you.
Let's welcome back anchor Jeff Oliverio. He is a financial advisor and certified financial planner with Truist Wealth in Fort Lauderdale. Jeff is one of the founders and president of the Hollywood LGBTQ Plus Council. He has served as co-chair for the National LGBTQ Task Force Gala since 2021. Jeff, it's always a pleasure to have you here. My Hollywood Pride and the Hollywood LGBTQ Council are holding Circle of Pride networking event on June 5th at the Sunset Club Rooftop Bar and Lounge. Tell me what's happening.
So to kick off Pride Month in Hollywood, we're going to have our annual flag raising, which will be in the afternoon at City Hall with the City Commission and the Mayor. And then we're going to follow that up that night with a networking event with the Hollywood Council, My Hollywood Pride, and we're also partnering with the Humanity Project, which is another organization that focuses on anti-bullying. So it's going to be a little networking, some light bites, some drinks, good friends, and some fun on the rooftop on the beach in Hollywood.
And a great message,
yes,
too. We
absolutely.
love that. We need more networking events here in South Florida, so I welcome them all. Let's welcome back anchor Dr. Julio Capo Jr., a board member of the Stonewall National Museum, Archives, and Library. He's a history professor at Florida International University and the author of the book, Welcome to Fairyland, Queer Miami Before 1940. Julio, the World AIDS Museum and Education Center is hosting a grand opening of the Sports and HIV/AIDS exhibition on June 26th. Tell me what's happening.
Yeah, I love WAM. WAM is World AIDS Museum, WAM for short. And they are just doing incredible work. They do so much community-based work. They're a global space that is, they're always thinking about HIV/AIDS and preserving HIV/AIDS history on a global scale. But this is a new exhibition that's opening June 26th. Where they got a local artist, Jerlin's Cherry, to do this really awesome new work about sports athletes, sports people who are
athletes
who have deeply impacted the stories of HIV/AIDS and our histories. And check it out. Check out all the work that WAM is doing. They're killing it.
Especially those sports people.
The sports people.
Let's welcome Alex Morash. Alex has written for The Advocate and served as editor-in-chief of Options magazine. He has also served as media director of the National LGBTQ Task Force and press secretary for the Florida Democratic Party. Alex, it's your first time at the table. Welcome. We're so happy to have you.
Thank you for having me. It looks like a fun crowd.
Absolutely.
Looks can be deceiving.
Don't be fooled.
And of course, this is tonight's lead anchor, Eric Restivo. Eric is well known for DJing at some of the largest clubs in West Hollywood and has had residencies in LA, P-Town, New York City, and now, Wilton Manors. He is the television host of The W Boys, focusing on LGBTQ plus love for entertainment, and which broadcasts Fridays and then on demand. Eric, Pride Fantasia 2024, which benefits Sun Serves LGBTQ plus youth. That's on June 12th. Tell us more about it.
Yes, LGBTQ plus youth SunServe is being benefit for Pride Fantasia. It's D-Rock Productions, which is Matthew Darren and Jonathan Hawkins, who owns the Crown and Anchor in Provincetown, major power players. And they have sort of taken the Fantasia name and made a series out of it. So they do a holiday version, and now they're doing a Pride version. It'll be held at the Manor. I'll be co-hosting the red carpet with Faye Watt. And it's going to be a fabulous time. I want to say that the VIP red carpet reception starts at 6:30, but I'll be back next week and we'll tell you more about that.
Sounds awesome.
We are the reporters for Queer News Tonight, and this evening we begin with the queer headlines. The LGBTQ plus community in South Florida and across America is diverse. Our community across the world is vast, and here are the bullet points of the queer news for today. First, this evening, let's queer up South Florida and Florida. HOTspots magazine's new issue, its special summer edition on May 23rd. HOTspots is celebrating 40 years with the new issue on Stan's Thursday. The magazine is part of HOTspots Happening Out, the largest nonprofit LGBTQ plus media group in America. The upcoming new issue is a special summer swimwear and underwear edition with a special feature on Gay Disney One Magical Weekend, Gay Days, Girls in Wonderland, Bear Jamboree, and Pride Cup, just to name a few, honey. Tomorrow, Queer News Tonight will share a special behind-the-scenes video of the swimsuit video shoot showing you what goes into such an artistic experience. For the lovers of entertainment and Hollywood, Romeo San Vicente has written a dedicated feature, Deep Inside Hollywood, on what to expect in the horror genre this summer. Maria Espinal's feature will help you find out the newly launched swimsuits, shorts, bikinis, shades, and what not to add glamour to the summer. The magazine also features Hot Puzzle, Barry many performances, along with a hot eats guide to where and what to eat this month in South Florida, also written by Maria Espinal. Once again, Scott Holland is back with another exciting feature on Gay Disney, a celebration of diversity and pride, which will be held from May 29th through June 3rd, including our sponsorship of One Magical Weekend and Gay Days. You will find all of those details of all of these events in this issue of HOTspots magazine, including the program schedules and the tickets. And of course, you can read popular features like Out with Scott and What's Hot by Scott Holland. Grab your free copy of HOTspots magazine on May 23rd, or you might miss all of the fun. And trust me, there is plenty of fun to be had. Anytime I get presented with a HOTspot story, I love to add that it's just like your one hot spot for everything queer and LGBTQ that's going on in South Florida and specifically Wilton Manor. So I'm looking forward to some swimsuit tips. And, you know, I'm always down to change my swim fashion. So let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah?
And the photos look great.
They should. Yeah, the cover looks very, very sexy. They always get the cover right.
And great stories. Like, that is, I want to know. I need to be told what to do in my summer. Like, it's too hot, so I need to be told how to stay, you know, like what.
And like where to eat.
Where to go, where to eat.
I don't want to think about food. It's just a constant conversation with me.
True story.
Where should we go? Where should we go?
It's funny that we have an issue talking about wearing swimwear here in South Florida because it's hotter here now this time of the year, not just hot. So you get to see all the hot swimwear on this issue, which will be nice to look at.
Absolutely.
Good for the eyes, and some things for the ladies as well.
Yes, it's the best of both worlds,
Yes.
quite literally.
Yes. Next, let's queer up the USA view. HRC launches $15 million campaign to mobilize equality voters to support Joe Biden. The Human Rights Campaign recently announced the launch of a $15 million initiative, We Show Up, Equality Wins, aimed at mobilizing 75 million identified equality voters ahead of the November elections. This effort seeks to combat anti-trans attacks and secure significant victories for Democrats, including the re-election of President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. HRC's strategy includes field programs, events, and advertising in 6 key battleground states: Pennsylvania, Arizona, Michigan, Wisconsin, Georgia, and Nevada. Studies show the number of equality voters has grown from 62 million in 2022 to 75 million in 2024. These voters represent a diverse coalition united by a commitment to LGBTQ+ equality. On the occasion of the recently launched initiative, HRC President Kelly Robinson stated, quote, LGBTQ+ voters and our allies are going to make the difference in the 2024 elections. With everything at stake, we have no other choice. Trump and his MAGA allies are promising a hate-filled agenda, but we refuse to go back, end quote. HRC will also support LGBTQ+ congressional candidates in California, Texas, New York, and Delaware with year-round staff in these states since 2017 and plans to expand for the upcoming election. It can't go, obviously, without an episode that I get to be on about saying how important it is to vote in this upcoming election.
Yep.
I know, working alongside with the task force, again, focusing on their Queer the Vote initiative again this cycle. And I like that they're highlighting, of course, the national elections. One of the things I think is also important is to make sure that voters out there are looking at the, again, from everything from school board to city commission. I know in Hollywood specifically, we have a MAGA ally running in the city commission race this year who ran 2 years ago, that I was very involved in that race. So, don't just look at the top of the ticket. And I hope the HRC comes in here and helps support our Senate candidate, Debbie Murkosel-Powell, who may have a very good chance of unseating Lex Luthor here in Florida.
I look at what HRC is doing, and as someone who's both worked at LGBTQ groups and worked in queer media, I always try to remind members of queer media that we really need to describe groups like HRC as, they're advocacy groups. They're nice people that advocate for LGBTQ rights, but at the end of the day, queer community hasn't elected any of these people. Kara Johnson at the task force, love her. No one elected her to anything. And, there are membership organizations like state parties or DSA that they elect their leadership. And HRC at this time, I was seeing, they're talking about equality voters, but they were talking about marginalized groups. But I looked at the polling of that. Young people, according to Harvard Youth Poll, ABC News on queer voters, Black voters, and Latino voters, according to NBC, their top issue is all the economy. So when I hear a group like HRC do this, I'm like, are you actually representing these voters? It's one thing if you're advocating for us. That's great, educate voters. But what I'm hearing from HRC right now, it doesn't make the most sense. Where are they getting the money? Why are they picking these states? What's going on with that?
Good question.
Those are super important questions, and I think you're right. That is, I was also like Jeff, and I was also thinking, one, I wish I saw Florida on that list, because I don't think Florida's a lost case. We're here in Florida, I should just note. So that is, I'm constantly thinking about Florida, and I don't think Florida's a lost cause. And too many people are thinking about Florida as just kind of now become a very clear tomato red state or something, that is tomato red, super red. That was a weird way of saying.
HRC has donated to Equality Florida in the past. I just don't know if this 15 million will include that.
It didn't include it in the story. That is, it wasn't among the 6 states that they're focusing their energies on. But it's not a lost cause. And I just think, that's all for me to say. it's only going to make a difference if LGBTQ voters show up at the polls, right? Like, and that's your point, Jeff. Right?
I always go back to, Florida has not always been a just red state. It has been a swing state for so long. It was blue for many years, so I agree with you. I don't think it's, something lost. But I will tell you this, as someone who, I do music and entertainment, that's my life. As someone who, I get a headache from too much politics, although I know the importance of voting, and I hope everyone at home knows how important it is to get out and vote. I didn't even know that this group called the Equality Voters existed. So seeing a jump and an increase feels like a small win. Is it not a small win? Like, should I not be celebrating that, or should we?
Well, I think it's a terminology of saying that someone is identifying as an equality voter. It's not like any kind of...
It's not like an actual polled...
To be clear, HRC created the...
Yes.
Like a brand.
I didn't want to say that, but yes.
But they didn't go around and get actual results, is what I'm saying. I'm not afraid to say it. I'm just asking, because I know
that's a fair question.
Yeah.
That's sort of like the question that I had with HRC about representation versus advocacy, and why we as queer media need to like really hammer in, like, HRC, we like it, but like you don't represent the community, you're advocating for it. And that's a difference that we sometimes forget in queer media.
That's a great point.
And, looking at it, like, I hope that they do some more to tell us, like, what their plan is in these 6 states. Because I did look at them, like, some of these states, like Michigan, I kind of get why they're going in Michigan, but at the same time, like, as someone who's, like, Michigan's going to be won on economic and foreign policy issues. I don't think equality is going to be the Michigan thing. But Florida, there's this, Julio, you made this great point. Abortion's on the ballot here.
Yeah.
Social issues, they're on the ballot.
And the numbers are really close.
Here.
Like,
really close.
Really close. Like, that is, like, people are not, the Zieglers of the world does not Florida make. Like, that is, like, that Florida is actually pretty diverse. And so too are its voting.
If I may, the bottom line, I think, is everyone has to go out and vote. Like, you can't afford to sit this one out. You have to go and vote for Joe Biden.
Well done.
I said it.
Next, let's queer up gay culture. Drive-by pellet gun attack targets LGBTQ plus bars in San Diego. This week, 4 LGBTQ plus bars in San Diego have been targeted in a drive-by pellet gun attack, leaving 3 individuals injured, including one who had to be hospitalized. The attacks occurred at the Rail Bar, Rich's Nightclub, number 1 Fifth Avenue, and Peck's, according to KFMB TV. Eddie Reynoso, a host at Rich's Nightclub, was hit in the eye. Recalling the incident, Reynoso said, quote, "I get hit directly in the eye. I feel something kind of like explode, almost like something popped. In my mind, I thought, I just got shot through the eye, and my eye just flew out," end quote. Rich's Nightclub has reportedly been targeted in similar incidents before. The police are investigating the motives in assailants, who are currently unknown. The vehicle involved was seen slowing down as occupants fired and possibly recorded the attack. The Rail Bar patron Eisen Carso expressed his dismay, stating, quote, "This is obviously a safe space. So the fact that people can just come in from outside and make it feel unsafe is just unfortunate. Something can go wrong really, really quickly, and it could have major effects on multiple people," end quote. The National Coalition of Anti-Violence Projects notes nearly 60% of bias-motivated homicides against LGBTQ plus people are done using guns. The community remains vigilant and resilient in the face of such attacks. However, such hateful attacks never fail to damage the sense of safety the LGBTQ plus community has been fighting to achieve in the country for decades. Goodness, this is a hard story to read. And I have to say, I'm sure everyone in this table and beyond, that is those at home listening and watching, this resonates with so many of us. That is the fear where I'll slightly have a kind of contention. I don't think I personally have ever understood gay bars as safe spaces. I find them to be refuges, like in some ways, but safe they have never really been. And in part because we're not safe in the world, right? Like that is that we can't imagine that there's this place that we could enter. We want to feel safe in them. And that is we need to fight to feel safe in them. But there's such a long history of being attacked specifically in these kinds of spaces that are ours. And that's why they attack us, because they're ours. To all those who were affected, know that there's a community of folks behind you, and that we support you.
And you know, it's fun. It's not funny. Nothing is funny. It's interesting you say that because you are Florida based, right? This is your home.
Yeah.
As someone who has DJ'd in San Diego at Rich's, someone who has DJ'd on the West Coast, someone who has DJ'd in Manhattan, someone who's DJ'd in Fire Island, P-Town. I'm naming all these places not to sound like the shit. I'm naming it because Florida doesn't feel like a safe space with the bars, but WeHo does. San Diego does. New York does. There is something down south, and it could be an overgeneralization of what I'm saying, but there is something down here that feels more hateful and more like, oh, I have to be on my defense a little bit more down here. I remember feeling like I could wear this shirt walking down the street of Santa Monica Boulevard with my DJ equipment, not having to worry about anything. I don't feel that same way in South Florida, even just only being here for a year and a half. So I think it's interesting that you make that statement as someone who has lived here their whole life, because I definitely believe it breaks my heart a little bit that you don't see a gay bar as a safe space, because I have felt safe and embraced by so many gay bars. You know, so.
Me too. I don't want to say like that as I do feel I feel home. Right?
Yeah.
That's not the same thing as feeling safe.
Right.
But I do feel home and community and all those things for sure. And I've lived in New York and I've lived in I've lived in other, but I think they're contested spaces. Like that is like they're kind of historically been, anyway.
Yeah, no, of course. No, but you're right. You're right.
And, you know, like, I remember interviewing Brandon Wolf a couple years after Pulse and what happened there. And, like, what has happened at queer establishments has been disturbing. But what I think is also even more disturbing about this incident is too often we think these are isolated incidents, but they're not.
No.
And there's actually, you know, there's a lot of connections to this sort of violence, to right-wing activity. You know, at UCLA, there was a group of 100 masked men that, like, went and attacked anti-work. But The Guardian went and researched them and found that they had a history of anti-LGBTQ activism before that. When I was editor at Options Magazine, a queer outlet in Rhode Island, I covered the neo-Nazi group in Massachusetts, NSC 131, when they weren't attacking libraries, like lefty libraries, trying to trap people inside. They were going after Drag Story Hour. I remember interviewing people outside of Drag Story Hour and how the NSC 131 has done that. This is a pattern of behavior happening in this country. We do need to be investigating it more and really asking, you know, I hear about how we're supposed to be electing these elected officials, like California, Massachusetts, these are places that are run by the party that a lot of people tell us to vote for. What are they doing to make us safe?
Yeah.
Well, I think to Julio's point, the reason, and to your point, the reason I don't think things feel so safe here compared to the places you mentioned is a lot about gun control, which of course is an issue. It's a gun issue. And the second thing is we've created a culture, and that culture has been elevated, of terrorizing LGBTQ people. You know, I think just as recent, I think it was last week, I saw Rachel Covello posted that, again, somebody peeled out on the pride flag in St. Pete again, which is what happened in Delray Beach.
Yes, they're not putting it on the bridge or something too in St. Pete. They're not
lighting up the bridge, but somebody skidded over the intersection again, which is what happened in Delray Beach. It's these small things to terrorize people, to make you feel afraid. And then it's been elevated by political leaders that are making it okay to attack LGBTQ plus people. And then you put that in the hands of people that can get easier access to guns, which our governor, Ron DeSantis, allowed here in Florida.
Well said. It's a gun issue, I think, largely.
And that is a round table, folks.
Full circle.
Next, let's queer up the worldview. Italy is among 9 EU countries to decline signing LGBTQ plus rights bill. Italy is one of 9 European Union states that did not sign a recent LGBTQ plus rights bill from the EU. Alongside Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, Croatia, Lithuania, Latvia, the Czech Republic, and Slovakia, Italy declined to endorse the May 17 declaration promoting policies supporting LGBTQ plus communities. Italy was the only traditional Western European nation to not sign on to supporting LGBTQ plus rights. All other countries were in the East and mostly former Soviet satellites. Italy's decision not to sign the EU text on gay rights was because it mirrored a bill proposed by Democratic Party MP and gay activist Alessandro Zan. Zan's bill aimed to increase penalties for anti-LGBTQ plus discrimination. Despite this, Italy did join a declaration against homophobia, transphobia, and biphobia on May 7th, as it pertained to non-discrimination based on sexual orientation. The Belgian presidency presented the declaration to EU member states on the World Day Against Homophobia, Transphobia, and Biphobia, with 18 of the 27 EU members supporting it. Italy has been controversial regarding LGBTQ+ rights, particularly after removing lesbian mothers from children's birth certificates in 2023. However, a court recently rejected efforts to erase non-biological lesbian mothers' names. Meanwhile, the Czech Republic expanded same-sex unions but excluded marriage and adoption rights. And Romania's prime minister stated the country is not ready for LGBTQ+ rights. Again, this is no shock. Obviously, Italy has gone far right with a leader who has fascist ties to their background. And this playbook is happening both across Europe, it's happening in South America, and if we let it happen, it's happening here in the United States. These type of policies, again, targeting groups because a government or a political organization doesn't agree with, equal rights for LGBTQ people, trans people. It's happening everywhere, and we need to be vigilant because people think, oh, Italy is it's not just for Versace, honey.
No, it's not. Yeah, it's not just like the Amalfi Coast.
No.
No. All right, next, let's queer up religion. Pope Francis criticizes U.S. conservatives over same-sex blessings. Pope Francis criticized U.S. religious conservatives and evangelicals opposing his decision to allow priests to bless same-sex couples during a recent 60 Minutes interview. The 87-year-old Catholic leader described such conservatives as those who, quote, cling to something and do not want to see beyond that, end quote, calling it a suicidal attitude. He emphasized the need to consider tradition while remaining open-minded. The Pope called homosexuality a human fact and reiterated his December 2023 directive permitting blessings for same-sex couples, though not equating it with church approval of same-sex marriage. This move has faced backlash, especially from African bishops who deem it culturally inappropriate and potentially confusing. Pope Francis dismissed these criticisms as coming from small ideological groups and urged clerics to empathize with the suffering of people. In November 2023, Pope Francis dismissed Texas Bishop Joseph Strickland, a vocal critic accusing him of undermining the Catholic faith. Despite the controversy, the Pope remains steadfast, acknowledging that solitude is a price he has to pay for his decisions. He also lamented the lack of brotherly discussion among detractors. Pope Francis has consistently urged the Church to avoid divisive issues like homosexuality while advocating for tolerance and supporting same-sex unions and celibate gay priests. This LGBTQ+ empathizing 60 Minutes interview with Pope Francis is aired against the backdrop of the recent UMC General Conference, where LGBTQ+ supportive decisions were taken. Queer News Tonight considers if we can expect the church to be more liberal in the future. I feel like we touch upon religion every now and then at this table. As much as I grew up in a Catholic Christian sort of mesh of whatever my grandma kind of said it was, I was loved by that form of religion. Now religion scares me a little bit. But I think the Pope is great in his attributions and what he wants for the LGBTQ+ community. I don't think it's going to change the church still, unfortunately. The heavy duty, Italian-based Roman Catholic church is hard, so tough.
I just always enjoy reading translations of what he says because he's always a very frank individual. I would love if in America people called conservatism suicidal, and dismissing it as this itty-bitty group. I'm like, so like if you're at home and you're like, how do I deal with like my Catholic family? Like, oh, well, the Pope says being conservative is suicidal. He says, oh, you're just an itty-bitty group anyway. Like, that's awesome. I hope we do that more.
That's pretty radical. Got so many of those itty-bitty groups against him that it's too many itty-bitty groups,
I mean, the reality for the Pope and for many organized religions religion is on the decline.
Right.
And so
In general, very much so.
the more that you eliminate people that can be part of the church, that's suicidal for the future of the church. I think the study came out. I read a story about that the fastest growing voting group here in the United States are non-believers. So if that tells you anything about what and I applaud, and I also will do a small plug. The St. John's on the Lake is returning as our presenting sponsor again this year for the Task Force Gala, part of the United Methodist Church, who is a welcoming church, and we sit here at the Sunshine Cathedral, which is another welcoming church.
One of the best.
So I think we have to look towards religion for places where people can find home and fellowship and comfort in places that actually respect you. And
agreed.
Well said. I as a raised very deeply Catholic, I'm no longer Catholic and I'm no longer religious, but I was very deeply Catholic. I want to find that optimism. Yeah. That is, because it also was a space for me in other moments of my life that was not necessarily for me religious, but where community and fellowship and it's something that there's no kind of atheists in foxholes when I'm when I'm on a plane and suddenly it's kind of like there's a lot of turbulence. I find myself doing the sign of the cross. And I'm like, oh my God, what did I do? And that is, I too would like to see people who can find a home in the Catholic Church. And Pope Francis is really is doing incredible work. That is
sassy. I love it.
It's radical. What he's doing is radical.
It is.
Nothing short of radical.
It is.
And it needs to be said.
And it needs to just keep happening.
Yeah,
more and more. Yeah.
All right, join us as we travel where the hills are alive in a special trip to Alpine Europe. See Austria, Switzerland, Alpine Italy, and more. You'll visit Munich and see the Gay Days tent at Oktoberfest, as well as visit locations from The Sound of Music. Find out more at happeningout.travel/Oktoberfest.
Next, we are proud of our special partnership with Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church here in Fort Lauderdale. Supporting that partnership, we are broadcasting from our permanent set here at Sunshine Cathedral at the Happening Out television studios. We broadcast Sunshine Cathedral's Sunday International Service at 10:30 a.m.
We finish tonight's Queer News headlines with the segment we call LGBTQ+ 1 Minute News.
LGBTQ+ 1 Minute News. Let's queer up gay culture. Christian and Bridget Ziegler's court battle gets more scandalous. Christian and Bridget Ziegler fought to prevent the release of details about their libertine sex lives in court. However, a new police report revealed that Bridget Ziegler, co-founder of Moms for Liberty, directing her husband to find threesome partners at Sarasota bars. Arguments in court escalated with advocates pressing for the disclosure of all evidence, including Christian's controversial F-list, documenting past partners. The first thing I want to say, and the only thing I'll say, is that maybe she just couldn't spell right. And that is like, maybe it was never Moms for Liberty, but Moms for Libertine. So witty. So witty.
I love a threesome. I hate the Moms for Liberty. I can't. There's nothing about it for me.
All I can say is this is the worst fan fiction I've ever heard.
I think anyone that had sex with these two is on the F list.
Disgusting.
Yeah. Oh, good boy.
Not the good F list.
No. Below the D list. LGBTQ plus 1 minute news. Let's queer up gay culture. Elon Musk's Twitter blacklists the use of cis and cisgender. Elon Musk's Twitter has started restricting accounts for using the terms cis and cisgender, labeling them as slurs. Users attempting to post these terms receive warnings about potential rule violations. Despite their widespread acceptance, Musk declared last October they would not be accepted on the platform. The enforcement of the decision, however, has begun this week, with users reporting reduced visibility. Again, it sounds like something that Elon Musk should be more focused on running Tesla, which is stock is down over 50%, than worrying about using the word cis or cisgender.
Yeah, I was done with Twitter when it switched from Twitter to X. That was, I X'd it out of my phone, to be fair.
As someone who had like a blue check mark, like, and all that jazz back in the day, like Elon must have just destroyed Twitter, just like period.
Go away.
Yeah.
Just go away.
And I bet you worked hard for that check mark too.
Yeah.
I did, it was the writer at Media Matters. It was like a whole process to get it back then. I had to give them my license. It was a whole thing back in the day.
Oh my God.
Yeah, not the $5 thing now.
No, right, not the final meta verification. LGBTQ plus 1 minute news. Let's queer up the USA View. Michael Cohen testifies in Trump hush money trial. Comedian Rosie O'Donnell supports him. Michael Cohen recently testified in Trump's hush money trial, revealing that he paid Stormy Daniels $130,000 to silence her about an alleged affair. According to his testimony, this money was reimbursed by Trump and was falsely recorded under legal expenses. But that is not a shocker. This is. Before testifying, Cohen received a supportive message from LGBTQ plus comedian Rosie O'Donnell saying, quote, breathe, relax, tell the truth, you got this, I love you, end quote. It's literally a story of strange bedfellows? I'm not sure, to be fair. I don't think Michael Cohen and Rosie O'Donnell would ever appear in the same sentence coming out of my mouth, but here we are.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend, or something like that, right?
And Rosie O'Donnell is the nicest, sweetest person. I remember she banned me on Twitter of all things, and I tweeted like, "What's going on?" I got the nicest apology and unblocking I've ever seen.
What did she say?
She just was like, "I'm so sorry, I didn't realize it," and then she unblocked me and I was like, "Oh, that's so nice!" Like,
Rosie.
Few people do that, you know?
I mean, she once said she loved Tom Cruise, so is that any stranger than this?
I think I once said I loved Tom Cruise too. A long time ago. Gross.
Yeah.
LGBTQ plus 1 minute news. Let's queer up entertainment. Asher HaVon, poised to win The Voice, had a big start at Selma, Alabama Pride. Rising star Asher HaVon from Selma, Alabama is the favorite to win the U.S. version of The Voice. Known for his soulful pop and R&B covers, HaVon has garnered a large gay fan base. He performed at Selma LGBTQ plus Pride in 2019 and gained initial fame in 2015, singing for then President Barack Obama during the 50th anniversary of Selma to Montgomery African-American civil rights marches. I have to say, I don't get to watch a lot of TV, and I heard some clips. He has an amazing voice.
Yeah, we were listening. He's got a great voice. Anytime there's LGBTQ plus representation, like in a top 3 or, you know, in top 2 of a reality television competition series, it's got my attention fully.
Root for him.
Yeah, hope we'll see him at a Pride here in South Florida.
Yeah. LGBTQ plus 1 minute news. Let's queer up drag culture. Kim Chi disappointed over exclusion from RuPaul's Drag Race All Stars 9. Fan favorite Kim Chi revealed she wasn't asked back for RuPaul's Drag Race All-Stars 9, despite her interest. The new season, which premiered on May 17th, features a small cast playing for charity, including Season 1 Chanel and Nina West. In an interview with People, Kim expressed her disappointment over not being invited back. Has anyone watched yet or no?
I have.
I'll make a for me, it's so clear what they did with the casting. They brought in power players from like the first few seasons, and then they brought in power players from the more recent ones, and they were putting them together. Kim Chi, did she win her season? Was she she was in top 3. I know that.
Yeah, I don't think she won. I could be wrong.
I don't think of, like, when I see this cast, I don't think of Kim Chi in this puzzle piece of this
I do love
casting.
Kim Chi, though.
Yeah, I love almost every queen. I just don't.
Right.
This cast feels so
More iconic.
purposely, like on purpose.
And it's a good season.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
Thus far.
I would tell Kim Chi not to worry. They've only done like 50 seasons of Drag Race. They're running out of drag queens. They're going to invite her.
You're right.
Yeah,
that's the right.
All the
Kim
traders.
Chi's got a beautiful makeup line, a huge makeup business, like a wildly successful makeup business. So
Wait for the next season, because I think you'll get called back. All right. That is today's news for the LGBTQ plus community on the world's first and only daily LGBTQ plus evening news show.
If our community is important to you, share this news with your friends and family. Are you, like most of America, part of our very large television audience watching this LGBTQ plus news broadcast right now on Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, and Amazon Fire TV?
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ plus digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support. If our community is to grow, we must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world.
This is the only place in the world that tells these types of LGBTQ plus stories in motion and in sound. That is the passion of HOTspots magazine, Happening Out television network, and Queer News Tonight.
I'm your anchor, Eric Restivo, and on behalf of these LGBTQ plus reporters, the anchors of Queer News Tonight, including Jino Arielly, Jeff Oliverio, Dr. Julio Capo Jr., Alex Morash, we will see you daily at 8 p.m. to our LGBTQ plus world. We wish you
Good night.
Good night.